Snow beat against the windshield of the sedan, the stark white nearly blinding him. Drake Radcliffe felt the burning pain in his side and prayed he could make it to the safe house. When he'd taken the hit, it hadn't felt too bad. He'd had far worse, but now it ached like a mother, and he was pretty sure he'd reopen the damn wound when he'd swerved on the highway. Was that blood he felt? There was a lot of it. He had to force his hands to stay steady on the wheel, his eyes on the... Was it a road? The events of the day slammed into him once again, and he could see his operative lying on the cobblestone street, blood just starting to stain the stones. Whoever had been behind that bullet had used a suppressor, because Drake had barely heard the sound before he saw the hole in his operative's chest open up, and then felt the pain in his own side. Where the hell was the cabin? It was a cabin, right? He was on the side of a fucking mountain, so he was pretty sure there was a cabin and not an apartment building. Guilt swamped him. He should have known something was wrong, but they'd been found out. His operative. What was his name? He didn't like to use names because it was easier to move around chess pieces than people. That was what he did. He played chess with people's lives, and he'd lost a pawn, and he couldn't even remember the pawn's name because he was a piece of shit. Come with me, brother. Think about what we could do with that kind of power. We could take over the group, and then we would rule the world. Just like we always knew we would. That had been a joke between him and his sister. They were smart. They were kind of assholes who joked about being smarter than everyone else around them, and so the world should simply do what they said. Except one of them had been serious. Where was the cabin? He was so fucking tired. He'd driven for hours and hours. Almost 8 hours with a hole in his side he'd basically stuck a bandage on. He needed stitches and antibiotics, but there was no way he was going to a hospital at this point. The safe house couldn't be too far away. He thought he might remember some of the markers, but everything was fucking trees, and the road that was barely more than a trail was covered in snow. How much blood had he lost? His head felt fuzzy, and now he was worried he'd made the wrong choice and should have tried to find a hospital. But the nature of his business was delicate, to say the least. If anyone found out he was in a hospital and vulnerable,